In this episode, I briefly examine the symbol according to Jung and Freud, with a particular focus on how Jung moved beyond the Freudian assumptions. I am Lisa, and this channel focuses on art, creativity and psychology, so sit back, relax and enjoy the video. Before I begin, I want to credit a book that really helped me to write the script for this episode. It is this absolute gem by Maurice Philipson, published in 1963. Within it, the author clearly outlines the connection between Jung's ideas, art and aesthetics, and I highly recommend it to anyone interested in the topic. In this text, Philipson states that the link that connects Jung's theory of psychology to aesthetics is found most prominently in his persistent efforts to define and use the concept of the symbol. A journey that began when Jung started to separate himself from Freud's position and move beyond it. In 1922, Jung remarked, "The essential factor of Freud's reductive method consists in the fact that it collects all the circumstantial evidence of the unconscious backgrounds, and through analysis and interpretation of this material reconstructs the elementary unconscious instinctive processes. Those conscious contents which give us a clue, as it were, to the unconscious backgrounds are by Freud incorrectly termed symbols. These are not true symbols, however, since according to his teaching, they merely have the role of signs or symptoms of the background processes." In this context, the reductive method refers to psychological interpretation, which regards the unconscious product as a sign or symptom of an underlying process. For example, in Freudian psychotherapy, the analyst may conclude that the cause of a neuroses is a particular event or series of events that happen during childhood. This realization and the consequent discussions would be the therapeutic approach. In contrast, in Jungian psychotherapy, the analyst would use a constructive method. This approach is concerned with the elaboration of the products of the unconscious, such as dreams and fantasies. It regards the unconscious product as a symbolic expression that anticipates a common phase of psychological growth and development. For example, an analyst may ask you to keep a dream journal to bring to therapy for discussion. Additionally, other creative techniques are used to explore unconscious content, such as drawing, painting, and active imaginations. In effect, the Freudian assumption is that all symbolic content can be reduced to earlier life experiences or elementary processes, and that the structures are always known or easily knowable. However, Jung argued that this method of analysis is inadequate, mostly because this explaining away has not proved useful for analysing cultural creations such as art and religion. However, Jung did agree that Freud's method was useful for identifying the signs of a neuroses. In an essay titled On Psychical Energy from 1928, Jung remarked, "Far be it from me to assert that the semiotic interpretation is meaningless. Its usefulness is undisputed in all those cases where nature is merely crippled without any effective accomplishment coming from it. But the semiotic interpretation becomes meaningless when it is applied exclusively and schematically, when in short it ignores the real nature of the symbol and seeks to depreciate it to the level of a mere sign." So the division between these two analysts began with Jung's differentiation between the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. In analytical psychology, the personal unconscious is Jung's term for the Freudian unconscious. This part of the psyche is essentially made up of the contents which have at one time been conscious but have disappeared from consciousness by being forgotten or repressed. This personal unconscious contrasts with the concept of the collective unconscious. The idea of this deeper level of the psyche introduced a new category that described a different class of psychic content, which Jung sometimes referred to as affective work. These affective works included artworks, music, poetry, and literature, creative items that emerged from the imagination. In Jung's view, these examples are distinct symbols. He wrote, "The true symbol differs essentially from the symptom, and should be understood as the expression of an intuitive perception which can as yet neither be apprehended better nor expressed differently." In an earlier paper titled The Transcendent Function from 1916, Jung declared that the symbol should not be reduced to a symptom of elementary processes. Instead, the term symbol should be taken to mean the best possible expression of a complex fact not yet clearly grasped by consciousness. So, if the structure of the collective unconscious is not or cannot be known to the same extent as the structure of the personal unconscious, then only those expressions that are reducible are signs or symptoms, whereas those that are not reducible must be recognized as symbols. The symbol then, according to Jung, is something that achieves effective accomplishment, as opposed to a sign which functions only as the expression of a psychological dead end. Therefore, the principle which Jung challenged was the Freudian assumption that all symbolic expressions can be reduced to the structure of the personal unconscious. If the Freudian position was adequate, that would mean that all non-literal expressions such as artworks and music are reducible to traumatic experiences or repressed and forgotten memories. However, Jung challenged this assumption in an effort to save the contents that characterize culture, such as art and religion, from being reduced and explained away by a reductive analysis.